in the way he's racing.
And a lot of thought too. You can see him looking around, knowing which way to go. Joshua Blair will no doubt be following him, but when you're thinking about an Iron Man who's out leading, probably the adrenaline's rushing, he's only a young kid, but just goes to show you that he's got a nice cool head on his shoulders.
Yeah, and the big thing is you see plenty of guys who are extremely fit and extremely skilled, but
where he finished the first half this morning.
And Guy Leach, you've got a bird's eye view of Kai Hurst right next to you. Uncle Topi's Super Series off his arm and the gold cap of the winner off his head. Joshua Blair's put in a great performance to come in second overall. Started 10 seconds behind at the start of this pursuit and will finish around about 15 or 20 seconds behind at the end.
We're going to see a fantastic finish here between Nathan Meyer, Phil Clayton, and I think that was Wes Berg, Grant. They've just caught a wave together. They're going to come up the ramp.
After a solid win against Queensland yesterday, the Blues won this morning's toss and chose to bat. Australian captain Belinda Clark opened strongly with Lisa Keightley, notching up a partnership of 148 before Clark was run out. A short time later, Keightley suffered the same fate after a moment of confusion with Tamara Roach. Former Newcastle player Sally Griffiths was in form with the bat and helped push New South Wales to a win. The Australian team will be announced in 3 weeks' time. Current captain Belinda Clark is looking forward to taking on England in Newcastle on February the 3rd next year.
We played them in a tour in '98 and we did reasonably well against them, but they're building up to the World Cup, which is in the end of next year, the same as what we are. So a few new faces in their squad and hopefully there'll be some good cricket.
Meantime, North Coast has scored 4 for 159 in response to Newcastle's 156 to win the Country Cup in Lismore today.
The ultimate measure of success is when people don't come back. The courts are a sort of business who don't want repeat customers.
In approximately 39 days and 6 hours, most people will be heralding in not only the new year, but the new millennium. While most are partying the night away, our computers will tick over from 1999 to 2000. And according to some, this changeover has the potential to spoil our New Year's celebrations. But just what is Y2K or the Millennium Bug?
Well, it's something to do with the year ending on the 2 digits instead of, and now it'll be on the 2-0 sort of thing, and it's going to throw a lot of the computers out. Is that right?
I just heard that it's going to stop everything for a while. So.
I have no idea. Computers break down or something?
When the end of 1999 comes, the computer will not switch over to the new date of 2000, and then everything switches off.
The problem arose when computers and microchips were first developed and dates were written using only the last 2 digits of the year to save computer memory. For example, 1975 was recorded as 75. But while we know just how the problem came about, we can't be certain what will happen when the year 2000 dawns. Experts are predicting everything from minor inconveniences to a complete breakdown of modern life.
The program won't know whether it's talking about a period up to 100 years ago, and if it can't handle that logic, it might just stop.
If you don't believe the millennium bug will affect you because you don't have a computer, then just take a look around your kitchen. Your microwave is controlled by a computer chip. The water supply to your taps is controlled by computers. So is gas to the stove. Electricity powers the fridge and the lights.
You know, perhaps in your own home, the biggest problem might be with your VCR or your microwave, because there's a lot of VCRs which have been around for many, many years, which are probably not Y2K compliant.
But while the millennium bug may be far-reaching, it doesn't necessarily mean society won't be able to function as normal.
There are many devices that are microchip controlled devices, but they won't fail because they simply have no regard for what year it is.
Ironically, computers may be the least affected appliances.
It doesn't stop with centralised computer systems. In fact, they probably receive the most attention, and therefore I bravely say they are the least likely cause of major Y2K problems.
Tomorrow night we look at just how safe is your money in the bank from Y2K. When the clock ticks over to the start of the new millennium, computers which haven't been upgraded will click over to 00, creating problems for financial institutions. The fear is some computers will assume it's the year 1900, and in the case of bank accounts, computers may believe the account hasn't been used for 99 years and close it. But luckily, most banks recognised this problem years ago.
The financial institutions have been doing year 2000 testing now for some years, so it's not something that has been left to the last minute.
And because the problem was discovered in time, most financial institutions are now guaranteeing all accounts will be safe.
I'm prepared to guarantee our systems, but there are a lot of external factors that we don't have any control over.
Most people are prepared to take their bank's word for it.
I think they've run their tests to make sure that things will go beyond 2000, so I'm confident that my money will still be there.
I haven't got much, but I will leave it in the bank because it'll be no problem.
I'll be too frightened to hide under the bed.
A run on cash by scared consumers could, however, create even more of a problem than the Y2K bug itself.
With a lot of the scaremongering that's occurred, a lot of people are very concerned about whether their money is going to be safe in financial institutions, and for that reason we expect that there will be a large run on cash.
The Reserve Bank is printing additional currency in anticipation of this increased demand for cash. But just in case you are considering taking large amounts of money out of the bank, the Australian Bankers Association is warning people they could fall prey to clued-up robbers.
What a lot of people don't realise is how unsafe that is. I mean, if you've got large sums of money in your house, that's one of the reasons we put money in financial institutions.
Tomorrow night we'll look at how far our health system has to go in being Y2K ready. And will the power still be on come the 1st of January 2000? Over the past 50 years, we've come to depend on computers for the survival of civilization as we know it. There's now more computer power in the average family car than there was in the Apollo spacecraft, which put man on the moon. Computers fly our planes, open our doors, pay us money, and even at times control the air we breathe. Our hospitals are particularly vulnerable to the millennium bug. John Hunter Hospital, like many, started early on its Y2K preparations. For the past 3 years, technicians have worked around the clock, checking and fixing thousands of life-saving and healthcare-related machines. Less than 1% were identified as having potential Y2K date problems.
Well, a lot of the equipment is date non-compliant, but its functionality is maintained and is able to perform the function for which it was designated.
But while most of the equipment has now been checked, contingency plans have still been put in place.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
We are expecting business as usual, but in the event of an unforeseen issue, we have the contingency plans in place to address that.
Statewide hospitals will stop performing non-urgent surgery 2 days before Christmas to ease pressure on services. And even in the event of a power blackout, all New South Wales hospitals have backup power generators.
As long as we can maintain fuel supply to those generators, we'll be able to maintain power in each of the facilities.
But according to Energy Australia, those backup generators won't be necessary. Ironically, the ageing electricity infrastructure is relatively safe from Y2K problems, thanks to being largely electromechanical, not electronic.
Our network was largely constructed in the 1960s and 70s before a lot of the technology aspects that are affected by the millennium bug were introduced, so largely our network remains unaffected.
But that doesn't mean the industry has been complacent.
We're planning business as usual on the night, but our contingency plans are extensive, and we will be putting extra staff on the night to cater for any unexpected contingency.
While insisting it's on top of all possible scenarios, Energy Australia won't go as far as offering a guarantee.
We can never be 100% sure with electricity supply because there are so many external factors.
In tomorrow's report, is there really any need to take precautions in case the millennium bug bites? And is it safe to fly on New Year's Eve? Like most other utilities, water boards and county councils were made aware of the Y2K bug some years ago. Enough time to upgrade their systems as was required by the state government.
We're well and truly on track with that.
The Hunter Water Corporation does, however, have an added advantage over most water suppliers.
Even if we lost power, which the electricity companies assure us we won't, but even if we did, it means we're in a position where we can gravity feed to substantial parts of our system.
In fact, Hunter Water is so confident it says people needn't take any precautions.
You can go very close to guaranteeing it. I would get on and enjoy my life, and with respect to the water supply at least, definitely don't fill the bath the night before.
But some councils aren't taking any chances. Coffs Harbour Council has outlaid $850,000 and installed its own generators just in case there is a problem. City Rail isn't taking any chances either. On what will no doubt be the busiest night of the millennium, trains will not be running over the crucial changeover time.
If there was a system failure, we don't want people stuck on trains in the underground.
As a precaution, trains will shut down from 11:45 to 12:25, then again an hour later.
It might be a power failure, it might be a signal failure, it could be a whole host of problems.
Australia's phone companies are also confident they've beaten the millennium bug. Telstra, Optus, Vodafone and AAPT all insist their systems won't fail at midnight on New Year's Eve. One of the most widely predicted effects of the millennium bug is that planes will fall out of the sky. Thanks to strict air safety regulations, Australian airlines are well prepared.
Australia, as far as aviation, is leading the world in the Y2K preparedness. The process has been quite extensive, it's been over a number of years, and we're very much at the end of that process now.
But while the airlines claim they are ready, some are still not taking to the skies. Impulse Airlines is among those to remain grounded over the New Year period.
We don't have any schedule services over those time periods at this stage, but certainly we'd be in a position that, if necessary, we could. However, at this point in time, there's no demand, so there are no services over those periods.
Insufficient customer demand will also see Ansett grounded for around 12 hours. Qantas will cancel some services, but it will be in the air. The question mark does, however, remain over the safety of some overseas airlines.
Well, I don't think the aircraft will fall out of the sky. I think there's obviously in some countries around the world, air traffic control systems could certainly be of some concern.
Tomorrow night, in the final of our 5-part series, we examine the cost of this computer glitch. The Millennium Bug is not in fact the fault of computers. It's a human error, and already it's turning out to be a costly mistake. Australian Y2K Task Force boss Maurice Newman estimates it could cost Australian businesses as much as $10 billion. The New South Wales government has spent hundreds of millions of dollars fixing the problem.
Within government, we had a budget of around $300 million, although there was other spending within agencies on Y2K issues. But right across the community, including the private sector, that's difficult to estimate. But it has been a cost, and it's been an expensive one.
Australian airlines have outlaid more than $200 million collectively. Phone carriers more than $540 million, and $255 million has been spent ensuring our defence systems are up to date. While all concur it's been a costly exercise, no one can agree just what will happen come the stroke of midnight 2000.
No one can predict the way that a computer is going to behave if it can't interpret the date.
Byron Bay is one council urging its ratepayers not to be caught out. The council's Y2K task force is urging people to stock up on extra cash, medication, food and water. But if you've already built your bunker in readiness for a Y2K disaster, you may be disappointed.
I think that it would be helpful if people did buy some extra food or took out some extra money, but I would like to qualify that by saying probably no more than you would normally do for a long weekend.
Some say the hype surrounding the Millennium Bug is overkill.
We certainly have to be prepared, but I don't support the doomsday scenarios, and I think they are really overplayed, particularly people suggesting that there has to be the storage of food and so on. That will not be necessary, and that is just simply overplaying the issue.
If there are any problems, most predict it will be minimal.
I think there will be, in Australia, just inconveniences here and there while things are ironed out, but overall society will still continue to function.
Developing nations may, however, be a different story.
In these countries, because they just don't have the same budget, or they don't have the same regard, or maybe the same technically qualified people, it's likely that they will have systems that aren't going to work. And whereas that won't affect us directly, it's quite possible that we may not be able to, for example, telephone somebody in Zimbabwe, because their telephone system has been isolated from the rest of the world to avoid all sorts of billing problems.
But what does the man on the street predict will happen?
Nothing will happen. Nothing. You can rest assured that nothing will happen.
I'm going to make sure I've got a couple of torches and my batteries are okay and my transistor and that sort of thing,
It's overrated. It's not going to be Armageddon or anything.
A capacity field of 160 players teed off in the inaugural Breast Cancer Golf Day, most having been affected by the insidious disease in some way.
Many of them have had it, many of them are undergoing treatment, and many of them are very positive about breast cancer and just getting on with it. And playing golf's part of it.
The field's form was varied. For some it was fun, while others had a serious game for a serious cause. But the Sydney Breast Cancer Institute was the biggest winner, with about $45,000 raised through sponsorship, entry fees and competitions.
The money goes to the Institute, and that is then used for research, and it is also used in the treatment of breast cancer.
The event was so successful it looks set to become an annual affair. Colin Baldwin, NBN News. These days, rugby league is played off the field just as much as on, and to help players know what's expected of them in the year 2000, the Knights held their first ever induction day.
In the past we've had some sort of get-togethers and discussions with the players, but today it's a more formal procedure. Various club officials and also sponsors will be talking to the players, just outlining what expectations we have for the forthcoming year.
Aside from talks from team officials, the players also received the club's drugs policy and even advice on what to do with life after league. Meanwhile, good news on the financial front, with the Knights recording an operating profit of just over $100,000. It's their 6th straight year in the black.
I think it's a lot of hard work by everybody from an administrative point of view right down to the players on the field.
The players chose to do this calendar to raise the profile of the Matildas. We've supported them in doing that because they deserve to be recognised not just for their bodies but for their athletic achievements.
George Weaver is the Prince Charming who developed a relationship with Nolene Anderson both over the phone and through the post in 1995, to the point where they spoke of marriage. Mr Weaver moved into Anderson's Central Coast home later that year after her husband Bob Gross disappeared. Mr Weaver told the court that Nolene Anderson said she had got rid of her husband. Bob Gross's body was found 2 years later, buried in a pit under the house. Reading from his own records of phone conversations he had with Anderson during police investigations, he told the court that she said she strangled her husband at the kitchen table and later put him under the house. But he also recounted other conversations where she told him her husband died a natural death and that she hid the body just in case she had done something wrong. Under cross-examination, Mr Weaver said he didn't want to move into Nolene Anderson's Rocky Point home until her husband was gone. But once he disappeared, he didn't ask too many questions about what happened to him because he didn't want to become involved. The trial will continue tomorrow. Bought second-hand from the US Navy in 1996, the Menora's refit contract quickly grew from $60 million to $90 million. But now it's almost ready to be handed back to the Navy.
The ship came in as a tank landing ship that's going out as an amphibious transport ship. So there's been a lot of effort to go into to making that conversion, but finally it's done.
More than 500 employees have been involved in the work, giving the ship the capacity to transport 4 Black Hawk helicopters, tanks, 450 armed troops and a naval crew of 200. 40 hospital beds, an operating theatre and an intensive care unit have also been added. The ship also includes the latest in teleconferencing, training and operational command facilities. It's due to embark on a sea trial tomorrow, but Forjax and the Australian Metal Workers Union have not agreed on the offshore allowance.
At present, the members are on strike over trying to get a fair seagoing allowance, similar to what applies in other major shipbuilding, ship repair companies.
The workforce at the moment is in the order of 350 to 400, and but I'm confident again that it will resolve itself.
Four Jacks have put a late offer on the table, but that's still to be considered.
Well, it's close to what's the national standard. Hopefully we can get a position that will be acceptable to the employees tomorrow morning.
If you don't, the ship won't move off the dock.
Well, it'll be difficult for the ship to.
Twelve RAF staff had some last-minute target practice at the Williamtown base in final preparation for their deployment to East Timor within the next few weeks. As part of Operation Stabilise, the peacekeepers are required to eat, sleep and breathe with the Steyr assault rifle in hand, poised to protect themselves and their comrades. Today's weapons fine-tuning session was aimed at making sure the fresh troops are both confident and capable of handling their weapon.
And it's very important to us, especially because the people around us, we've got to know that they know what they're doing, just because safety is paramount with these weapons. They do kill.
They're expecting to be in East Timor for up to 9 months and have been told what they're in for by the Aussie troops already serving over there.
We've had a lot of communication with our people that are over there now. They tell us all their stories, let us know what it's like, the living conditions, and they also give us an idea on personal things to bring just to make it a bit more bearable.
And it appears the militia isn't the only thing to watch out for. Amid reports, oversized rats have been eating the troops' underwear. Leading aircraftman Steve Perotta and his dog Bundy are part of the RAF dog squad. Both have spent countless hours training together, with the dogs even taught to crawl alongside their handlers in dangerous situations.
With the dog handlers, we're asset protection of the airfield and the perimeter of anywhere where our troops are. We can be utilised in different sort of roles.
Amanda Bolger, NBN News.
When the going gets tough, the tough move to the country. And at Muswellbrook, a house has been established for just that. It's called Holborough House, and it's about to become home to 6 otherwise homeless Hunter kids.
It's about giving them a home, an education and an alternative way of life. We're fairly demanding on the kids. They'll have to be involved in school, they have to be drug-free, they have to really want to get on with their lives.
It's all part of the Kids Off the Street program, which looks after homeless kids in Victoria, New South Wales and will soon branch into Queensland. And while the house may not be ready just yet, the program has already received a great deal of support.
Dartbrook Coal have offered us dairying apprenticeships, Bengala have offered support and Rio Tinto have also offered us support, so we've got the whole mining industry behind us as well.
It's hoped that living in the country may encourage a healthier lifestyle.
We're on about sort of putting a circuit breaker in so kids actually get help here in their local community before they actually go to Sydney.
While there is no one to call it home just yet, the house is officially opened tomorrow. Adam Harper, NBN News.
The Nora Head Lighthouse stands guard over the Pacific Ocean, as much a reminder of those lost at sea as the Merchant Mariners Memorial just metres away. It's not widely recognised that 28 Australian merchant ships were sunk during World War II. Today, a teary reminder of the 250 Australian lives lost.
Being a merchant seaman was not an easy task at all.
It was a very hard job.
Jack Finnan was aboard the freighter Kawarra when it was torpedoed by a German sub off the Queensland coast. Despite the horror and loss of life, Jack still recalls the lighter side.
One fella only had a wristwatch on, one fella only had a singlet on, and I only had a pair of shorts on.
Wreaths were laid at the memorial anchor and prayers offered for past and present mariners. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
And what sorts of things have the dogs been asking for Christmas?
Leads, collars, toys, blankets.
Mark Pajero is the current middleweight champion of Australia, and although he hasn't held the title for too long, he's already preparing to defend it this weekend.
Brad Mayer gave me the opportunity to win the title back from him, so now I just want to get straight back into it and let Ian McLeod have the opportunity to fight me for the title again.
On Friday night, Mark will face Ian McLeod for the title, a boxer trained by Jeff Fennick. But to try and ensure his win next Friday, Mark is training hard alongside other Australian boxing legends like Guy Waters, who'll also be making an appearance on Friday. And the Central Coast boxer is confident he'll maintain the title after all the hard work he's put in so far. However, the current champ is not taking it too lightly, having already sussed out his opposition in a previous fight.
I know he's a very strong fighter. He can take punishment, he can take a lot of punishment, so I'm not banking on an early knockout or anything like that.
Boxing starts at 7 o'clock at Ettalong Memorial Club this Friday night. Adam Harper, NBN News. Lake Macquarie and its link to the Sea-Swansea Channel has become a playground for water sports, particularly sailing. But it was by accident it was first seen by a European 200 years ago.
This is roundabout where Captain Reid initially came to Lake Macquarie. He came thinking he was coming into the Hunter River and picked up coal, went back to Sydney and suddenly found he hadn't been to the Hunter River at all.
Today, a book was launched to celebrate the bicentenary, called From Mistake to Millennium. It's a photographic recollection of the history of the lake since that first day in 1800.
And it's for people of Lake Macquarie, past, present and future. So it's a book really for the people of Lake Macquarie.
The book has taken 16 months to prepare, and between the covers can be found 130 pictures chronicling the lake's history, with people from yesteryear through to modern times. And Lake Macquarie Council joined in on the launch to release the new city logo for the bicentenary year.
I guess capturing the spirit of the lake again with the pelicans, the waves and the sails.
The new logo will appear around the region in the next few weeks. Adam Harper, NBN News.
No.